Let's talk about advanced basic characters. Which sounds strange, but what I mean by that is I want devs to feel comfortable putting a lot of really simple characters into their games. For example, here's Kate Marsh. In the last episode, we put her in as a demonstration. She mopes, and then when you enter into this trigger volume, she looks up, she watches you, and she's willing to talk. This kind of simple character is really valuable in terms of creating a storyline and all that jazz, and she doesn't have any advanced logic. She doesn't know how to do pathfinding or shoot a gun or anything like that. She only knows exactly what the level wants her to do. Next episode, next level, maybe she'll sit on a couch, and she'll have different animations and different triggers and different things to say. And the level after that, maybe she'll have a different animation based on what you did in the previous level. Each of these Kates is a very simple character, and it's important that you feel comfortable rolling this sort of character out because this is what narrative adventure games are made out of. If you do it naively, you will end up with a Kate for every level. And what I mean by that is you will have a very specific Kate for the standing outside the cafe section of the game, and then you'll have a specific Kate for sitting on her couch on Monday, and then a different Kate for sitting on her couch on Tuesday, and they'll all have their own logic and their own animation blueprints and their own subclasses, and it's going to be a huge mess. That's the method I showed you last time. Sorry, I couldn't fit everything in one video. We created this Kate using an animation blueprint setup. So there's an animation blueprint that understands how to pout and how to not pout and look around. And then we have to trigger that animation blueprint via this trigger volume, which goes into Kate, goes into her skeleton, finds the animation instance, casts that animation instance as a specific Kate animation blueprint for this level, and then sets a specific variable to an arbitrary value in order to have her look up and look around. And even in the last episode, I made a big show of talking about how gross that was. It's because you're not supposed to do it that way. That's not really what animation blueprints are for. The secret is that we're going to have one Kate. One Kate for everything. No matter the level, we just put a Kate in. And then we can tell her what to do by using level scripting, and there doesn't have to be any custom level logic inside of that Kate. They all have the same animation blueprint, but they do radically different things. They do whatever we need them to do. And the way we can do that is by moving all of that complexity out of Kate and into a montage. That's right, a motherfucking montage. Montages are really powerful, but they're also not taught very well. All of the tutorials I found were pretty rough. And mostly that's because most of the times when you want to use a montage in typical Unreal fashion, they're like, well, here's how you do a montage to reload a gun on your mocap blended animation cyber trooper. It's like, that's not what we want. What we want is the most basic possible way to tell a character to do an animation. And that's what I'm going to teach you today. I'm going to teach you the basics of montages so that you can feel really comfortable rolling out 100,000 really simple characters. If you want to know what it looks like to use a montage, it looks like this. I've switched Kate over to using montages. I haven't done too much work on Kate besides changing her over to using montages. I animated her eyes a little bit rather than just her face, and I also gave her just a slightly less pronounced mope. But the reason why she looks so much less robotic, and if you haven't seen the last episode, you might be like, less robotic? She looks robotic as hell. No, in the last episode, she looked robotic. The reason she looks less robotic here is because montages have a lot more control over how you lerp in and out of animations. So it is much easier for me to set up a more realistic animation, which isn't saying much. Still, this is just 2 frames. Not too bad for having only 2 frames, right? So how does it work? Well, a montage is a way to tell a skeleton to play a specific animation. Essentially, a montage is a playlist of animations, and you hand it over to the skeleton and tell it where to start. You don't have to know what animation blueprint is on the skeleton. You don't have to cast it to anything. You don't have to set any variables. So if we were going to look over into our level blueprint, here it is. This is the trigger volume and the conversation. Here is the conversation. here is the trigger volume, and here is the animation section. It used to look like this. Get Kate's skeleton, get Kate's animation, cast it to a specific kind of animation, then set this arbitrary value on this arbitrary variable. And it's like, ugh, if we ever change anything, we're going to have to do a ton of work to try and change it on Kate and in the level and keep track of which arbitrary values mean what. Gross, just the worst. This is how we do it now. We say get Kate's skeleton and tell Kate's skeleton to play this playlist starting from here. Pretty basic, right? When we walk into this trigger volume, we tell Kate, hey, Kate, pay attention. And when we walk out, we say, hey, Kate, stop paying attention. Next level, when she's sitting down, we can either pass her a different montage containing her sitting down animations, or we could just have the animations on the same playlist and tell her to start from a different part of the playlist. Either way, the level is in control of what animations she plays. That's incredibly important when our character doesn't do anything besides be a part of the level. She doesn't have any sort of combat skills or complex reactive animations or anything like that. All she needs to do is do the animations we want her to do when we want her to do them, and this is an easy way to accomplish that. It's also way more powerful than our previous example. This is so fragile and clumsy in comparison, and we're going to get into that soon. So what does a montage look like? Well, let's pop a montage open and take a quick peek. Here is our montage. Now, if you are using 2.47 or 4.27 rather than 5, it's going to look different. It's got the same capabilities, but the UI changed quite a bit between 4.27 and 5. We're using 5 here. It's got all the same capabilities, though. Fundamentally, we have a playlist. This is a particular playlist inside of our montage called the default slot playlist. What a beautiful name for a playlist. And you can see I've put in the stoned animation, which is her looking up at us, and I've put in the better mope animation, which is her moping at us. I've put them each in their own section. This one is in a section called alert. This one is in a section called mope, and they're both set up to loop forever. So if we look at the level blueprint again, you can see I'm telling her to play the section called alert, and I'm telling her to play the section called mope. And she will play them forever, because they are set to loop forever. We can do whatever we want here. We could change the exact position of mope, we could add more animations, we could set it to loop for specific times and with randomized subsections, and there's a lot of stuff you can do. But this is enough to get you started. Using this, we can tell Kate to mope. We can tell anybody to mope. We could pass this to anybody with a compatible skeleton, and it would work the same way. For example, we have over here in the corner Chloe, which I have imported as having the same skeleton as Kate, which isn't exactly accurate. Her face is just a little bit screwed up, but you know, that's life, I guess. She has the same skeleton, which means that she can actually use the same animation assets and blueprints. So if we get that NMBP cake going, you can see how she's tilted a little bit, just because that's just how she has to be for her own system. We can pass her the exact same arguments as Kate and have her do the exact same things. So for example, if we were going to go into our level blueprint again, we can switch Kate out for Chloe, like so. So now when we walk over to Kate, Kate's just going to keep moping because we have disconnected her. She's now just disconnected. But over there you can see Chloe is looking at us. It might be a little hard to tell, but you can definitely tell she's not in the mope animation, and now she is. Are you starting to see the power here? These two characters can have the same animation blueprint and get past the same or different montages as the level requires. Now, if they had different skeletons, they wouldn't be quite so compatible, but the logic would be the same. this is such an easy way to set up hundreds of characters because you can just have them do whatever you want. So for example, let's go and make Chloe do all of this same stuff. So we'll just copy all of this and then paste it. We'll talk about better ways to do that some other day. And we're going to need a new trigger volume for Chloe. So let's put one in. Just create trigger volume and put it in roughly the right spot. Whoop, 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 whoop. Whoop, 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 whoop. Whoop. There we go. That'll work. And then we're going to name that something. Chloe Talk. We'll go on back into that level blueprint and we'll put Chloe Talk down here. Add event. Collision on character begin. Add event. Collision on character end. And then we will connect all of these little pieces up. And we'll make her say something different. Instead of hi, she'll say, "You planning on blaming me for this?" Hit compile, hit play, and we'll walk over. See? See how easy that was? But obviously we don't want her to be stuck in the fence like that. We probably want her to run with some animation that's more relevant to her. In fact, as you can see from her teeth, this isn't even technically the right skeleton. Still, it's close enough for demonstration purposes, and all we really need to do is create a new armature, geez, I'm suddenly brain farting, a new montage for her. So let's go ahead and do exactly that. We'll go into Chloe, we'll grab Chloe, and we will say create a new montage. And we will call that anim Chloe montage. Now you notice how it popped up in Kate's directory. That's because Kate's skeleton is where everything is based on right now. So this is actually just going to pop up next to the skeleton, even though that skeleton is not really Chloe. So here's Chloe's montage, and we'll just pop that open. And you can see how it's using Kate's body, because again, we're using Kate's skeleton. Easy to fix. We'll just switch it over to Chloe. There she is. And now we're going to put the animation for Chloe in. There, she's now sitting down. For simplicity's sake, we're going to use the same animation twice. We're going to need a new montage, which we will call alert. And we'll delete the default name. We don't need that. We're going to need a new montage, which we will call mope. Not for any particular reason, just because might as well keep the standard alive. These montages are not currently set up right. If we hit play, you can see how it's going across both of them like that. Ooh, very pretty, and also the worst possible setup, right? A big problem here is that these sit animations is only 1 frame long. So what we actually have here is a 2-frame nasty montage of death. And the way to fix that is we could extend the animations, but the easier way to fix that is to go into the montage sections and set them up as loops. There we are. Easy, right? So now we can pass her these montages, or this montage. And that's easy enough to set up. We just go back into the level blueprint and we tell her to use the right montage. Here she is. Switch out anim Kate montage for anim Chloe montage. And since the default exists, there is a default. Chloe's default blueprint is using one of Kate's mope animations, and we would really like her to be sitting down instead. So we're going to have to create just a quick begin play override. And that's just this same setup. Oh, that wasn't what I wanted. There we are. This way her initial animation will be correct. Now, if you're using distinct animation blueprints per character, which I normally recommend, I'm just doing this to show off, you won't need to do that. So once again, we're just passing a different montage to the same controller. And if we look, she's sitting. And if we come on over, she'll keep sitting. It's working, but she's not looking at us. Why isn't she looking at us? So here's the other half of the equation. We are still using animation blueprints. The montage doesn't magically work. The animation blueprint on the skeleton still has control. You have to tell the animation blueprint on the skeleton what montage to play and what it means. Sound complicated? It's not. Let's take a look at Kate's controller. So if we look at Kate's blueprint for her animation, it looks a little complicated at first glance, but it's not, because this is all you need. We have a default animation, then we tell it to play a certain track if it ever receives any commands to play a montage. As I said, we have this track called default slot. So basically we're telling Kate's blueprint to always play the track called default slot. So whenever we pass it a montage, it's going to play whatever it can find in that slot at the location that it's told to start. You can just pipe this straight into the end. You can finish here. You can have a 3-node blueprint. All of this crap is head tracking. It's not really that complicated. It's just each individual bone gets tracked, and then I've got the eyes getting tracked. It's pretty straightforward in terms of, eye tracking stuff. It looks large, but it's just the same thing over and over and over for different bones. And that will allow Kate to look at us. But how do we tell Kate to look at us? And why doesn't Chloe look at us? Didn't she look at us before? Why isn't she looking at us now? What's going on? Well, the answer to that is down here under the notifies. If we were to pop open Kate's montage, here we are, you can see how she's got this look and this stop looking notification. These are animation notifications, and you can catch them, which is what we do. If we go into the event graph, here they are. When we are told to look, we set our target tracking to 1. When we are told to stop looking, we set it to 0. This is functionally equivalent to how we used to do it, using the level blueprint to set these manually. But this is so much nicer because it doesn't involve editing Kate. We never have to worry about whether or not Kate is set up properly. If we want to change how Kate is set up, we change how Kate is set up. If we want to change how the level is set up, we change how the level is set up. We don't have to do both at the same time. And then all of this down here just makes sure that Kate can actually find us and look at us. Now the thing about this is that these montage events, these can be anywhere. If we create new montages with new sequences in them, we can use these exact same notifications. And the reason why it only works for Kate's montage is because we didn't ever create the notifications for Chloe's montage. So we'll do that. Obviously, you want to name them the same thing. Here. How you doing? Looking at us, huh? Easy peasy. If we had 100 different animations in our queue, if we had 100 different things we needed these characters to do, we don't have to set up the blueprint for the characters to understand each of those animations. If we go over into the Kate room level, and we set up Kate room animations, then there'll be a montage with, Kate sit down and read book, and Kate sit down but not read book. And we can put the look notification on the not read book and the stop look notification on the read book. And once again, it'll be completely compatible. Kate will just work. We don't have to change any of the logic on Kate, because all of the logic is nicely partitioned off into a place where we can edit it and use it and change it without ever needing to worry about whether Kate is keeping up. And as you can see, if you need the same kind of controls between different characters, like you want them to be able to look at you, you can actually use the exact same blueprint, the exact same animation blueprint. There is no specific Chloe class, and there is no specific Chloe animation blueprint. This is a generic skeletal class with the blueprint for a different character on her. This is an approach which will allow you to create custom one-off animations for every level, to script them to respond to specific things in the level without having to dig down into their blueprint and create, custom chains inside of their blueprint information. This is a very, very powerful way to put lots and lots of characters into your game world. Very simple characters that do exactly what you need them to do. Now, I moved really fast, and it still took me 20 minutes. But if you had a hard time understanding these things, I hope that you didn't. But if you did, let me know. This is one of those situations where everything I've done is supposed to be a foundation that you can understand so you can build on it yourself. You probably won't have too many characters with the exact same skeleton, so you might not be able to use the exact same animation blueprint. But hopefully you understand that these animation blueprints can be reused level to level with different animations to do different things. You could have the characters say different things and respond to different things. We could have Chloe do something 10 seconds after we have Kate do something by just changing the level diagram, putting a delay in, and having her respond in a specific way. I mean, just to show you that, just to show you how easy it is to set this stuff up. Look, if I were to come over here to the end of Kate's dialogue and put in a delay, let's put in a 3-second delay. Now, not 30, that would be a long wait. And then we could just drag this output down here. One, two, three. Level-specific programming is incredibly important in the kinds of games I like. And this is a way to keep almost all of the logic you need in the level, rather than creating one-off, barely useful classes for each character. Hope you got that. See you around.